I think, to me, as an artist and a filmmaker, it is also always a question about really a very simple question about the amount of the production budget you have. So, to me, as an artist who is not that known, that the gallerist would be sure that he can sell like 5 limited copies of my new project. It is like impossible, or I don't know, but you as a gallerist, if I would tell you my new project has a budget of 50,000 euros, let's go for it. I don't think even if you had 50,000 euros that you would put them in this single project. So for my way of working, which takes very much time and exceeds very high quality, it is like nearly impossible to do this in the art world, even if I would, I personally would choose.
I think there are different models. Of course, there are artists. They have budget of 50,000 or 150,000 euros.
It's finally worldwide.
And yeah, and there are galleries. They invest that money, or they introduce collectors. You buy the first copy, you don't know it yet, but please buy it, and he buys it. And Ivo Wessel did it, for example, for a production of Mark Aschenbrenner. He said, okay, yeah, I buy the first one, and I trust in the artist. That's one way.
What was the budget?
It was not 50,000, but this is one way, and of course the other one is through public funds or these things. You need this money, and all artists need this money, even when the gallery gives money to that budget as well. But without public money, we couldn't work, I think.
Because yeah, just one sentence. It's because I do depend completely on public money. I couldn't make my films without public money.
I think it's very interesting that actually by talking about how to distribute artworks that we now start to talk about production. And I'm very thankful that you came up with this point, because for me in this thinking on how to deal with video art, actually the production issue is something that is not at issue in general, but for instance, Dwayne Hopkins has chosen to work with you, to cooperate with you as a production company, and Volker, you just mentioned that during producing a work, you realized that the presentation is different between the gallery and the cinema, and that you have a very high obligation also for the gallery to have a good presentation, exhibition for your artwork. And I think what is very decisive, that actually there are separate strategies how to direct the exhibition and presentation of video art, which can be directed by the artists. For instance, with Dwayne Hopkins, selecting material and actually getting back to his material as a raw material and developing a multi-platform framework. And for instance, what to me is quite interested, and I would like to ask you and talk about this also is how does actually the funding direct the way the framework you have to present your artwork. For instance, the Finnish video artist Eeva Attila, she produces video installations, and at the same time she produces a single channel version and gets funded by the art market and by the film market. And how is this kind of affordance actually also directing the way how you present?
What I really don't like so much is speaking about funding and not speaking about real money. I mean, I really would like to work with an example, because if you say funded by the artwork, I don't know how much you pay for someone to make a film. Is it 5,000 euro you give in advance? Or because if we speak about general funding money, then you can apply for short film to get at least 60,000 euro if you want to, for 15-minute single channel film in the end. So this is quite a difference, I think, to what you get if you're not the one of the 20 persons worldwide, which is okay. Yeah, I mean, Christian Jankowski, he's not here now, but I mean, how much money he makes a film for a gallery, you know, the cleaning up the studio, his last film we had in the Berlinale Schulz, that was produced for the art gallery of the Namjoon Paik Institute in South Korea. And it was an installation there, and then I saw it, and I said, okay, we go back with it to the cinema, and it worked super. And you know, but it was just funded by this little money from the gallery, and no more different funding money. And how much money, you know, we want to have for one's next work. And
I think the question of funding is really important, and there are surprisingly some similarities for the funding for black box and white cube stuff. You talk about a collector of a well-known artist who buys every work that they do. This is like a pre-sale. You've got to think about these things as a similar sort of machine. There are, however, of course, wild differences in how you exploit the work, how you go about selling the work and pitching the work. I think as well the art world is governed in a certain way by what other people think of your stuff, whereas the film world, it's all about this is what I'm doing and very much driven by the director or the writer or the producer, whereas the art world, it's more about trying to find someone to be a supporter of your work in that way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But the actual nuts and bolts of the funding, when you look at a finance plan for a film and you look at a finance plan for a piece of artwork, it often is very similar. You have some public money, some pre-sale money perhaps, some private money, some helping kind which you put down because it's a percentage of the budget, some deferral perhaps, and there's very much a symbiotic relationship between the numbers on the page before the artwork's made and perhaps, if it's someone like Dwayne who's operating in both fields, the finished work.
The difference perhaps is the return of investments. On the art market you make these editions normally, edition of 5 or 6 or 8 or whatever, and you try to sell these 6, 7, 8 pieces to get the invested money back, and film market works different.
That's what I mean about the exploitation of the work.
But they don't get their money less back than the artwork, I think.
No, I think so, because the budgets are always bigger, because there's more people involved, and there's more links in the chain. With Sunday, basically, Dwayne did all the editing, we did all the post-production ourselves. We didn't include all the hundreds of people that you include in a film chain that finances demand that you have to get a certain level because they know you can't do it on your own. Whereas with a piece of art, you make it yourself and then you present it to certain people in various ways and they want to put it on. so on and so on. So yeah, those are the differences. But when you're actually talking about how am I going to raise the 50,000 or for a film the million to make it, you can think about similar strategies.
Yeah, but it also depends on which level you are talking, or which level the artist has who is talking about money. Because we, for example, we have a lot of artists we represent at Forum Carnival, so they made a film with 5,000 euros or so, and they are really happy when, for example, Juliane Selvis, she showed an installation 2 years ago, Meisterwerke, that through the budget of the Berlinale, she could develop her idea of the installation, and it was done, and now it can be showed at other places because she wouldn't have had the money for that. So it's really also an important question. From what budget we are talking about? What budget we are talking about? Are we talking about 5,000 euro, or are we talking about 50,000? And there's really, I think there's a big difference, and you can't connect it in a way. And for me, it's still, as we are, as a distribution, we are working like that we are just giving contacts for galleries or museums or so. And the artist handles that by himself. So for me, it's really more important to give a platform for the artist that his work is shown, and not so much the whole money thing. So I also don't know so much about it, but I think it's really important. You know, Dwayne is like, he's really well known, but there are a lot of artists who struggle a lot. And maybe in 10 years it's pretty good for them, but at the moment it's quite tough, and I don't know how we could, or for me it's really important, how can I help them, you know? And the first thing is to give them more of a visibility that their works are shown.
Can I just make a very quick point?